you sick of having a storeroom with low quality balls that don't even last a season? Are you sick of the poor customer service and constantly being let down? Then choose Deploy Football. Aussie owned and operated, Deploy Football was created to look after Australian football clubs just like yours. For the past 10 years, we have developed what we believe to be the best value for money football range in Australia. There's a reason why over 500 community clubs in Australia choose Deploy Football, and when they do, they don't look back. No gimmicks, no tricks, just top quality footballs at value for money prices.
All right, it is time for our final keynote speaker of the day, and we're about to introduce you to Skye Eddy, who you may not have heard of in Australia, but in the States, she is Grassroots sports royalty. She is the founder of Soccer Parenting Association and works so hard to really empower parents to help inspire that love of sport, Garvey, in their kids.
Yeah, and the majority of grassroots coaches are parents, and there's nothing wrong with that, of course. I mean, the golden generation here in Australia, the majority of them were coached by their dads, and they turned out pretty well. So you'll get plenty of hints and tips and methods as a result of this that will help the parents, but also make life so much better for the kids as well. So soak it all in.
Hi, I'm so excited to join you today to talk about parent engagement. And today we're going to be diving into parent engagement, what I spend so much of my time working on and focusing on with soccer parenting. We're going to talk about why parent engagement is important, what parent engagement looks like what the specifics are when it comes to parent engagement, and how you can establish really effective parent engagement programs within the teams that you're coaching. So I'm so excited to spend this time with you today. A little bit about my story. So I founded Soccer Parenting about 9 years ago now. I grew up in the game. I'm a former player. I played professionally. I played collegiately. I'm an active youth coach. I work for US Soccer doing their grassroots coach education, and I have teams that I'm working with right now. And I'm also a soccer parent. So I have 2 children in the game. My daughter is more of a high performance player. My son is definitely a recreational grassroots player. I founded Soccer Parenting with a simple idea that I want to make youth soccer better. And I just became acutely aware of the stresses that too often existed between coaches and parents. And with that in mind, I was attempting to solve this coach-parent dilemma by starting Soccer Parenting. There's also some other reasons why I started it, because I felt like as a parent that with my background playing, with my background coaching, that I would be an exceptional soccer parent. And then this happened. My daughter, as she was coming up in the game, began to have so many struggles. And when I thought I was helping her, I was actually really hurting her. And so it became apparent to me that I had a lot to learn. And when I went to look for resources about how parents could best be supporting their children, there weren't a lot of resources around. So we're developing resources for coaches to be able to support parents. And that really is the foundation of what parent engagement is. At Soccer Parenting, we believe that youth soccer parents will be difference makers when it comes to improving the game. That when parents seek information about how to best support their child, that great things that will happen, and that a more collaborative environment between coach, parent, club, and player is definitely in the best interest of player development. We'll be talking all about that today, and that a strong and supportive community of level-headed and like-minded parents and coaches will inspire players. Keyword there, inspire. So my first takeaway for you today is to think deeply about what you tend to believe to be true about parents and be willing to open your heart and to change your beliefs. Because we go into the game as coaches with a lot of predetermined ideas about parents and about the roles of parents. And so my first question to you is, what do you believe to be true about youth soccer parents? I think it's important for you to take a moment and to reflect on this, to even later jot down some ideas and thoughts about what comes to mind for you when you're interacting with parents after a match, when you see the parents walking across the field to you. What are you thinking? What do you feel and what do you believe to be true? And what we've found at Soccer Parenting is that the majority of parents are level-headed and sometimes stressed. And we spend so much time when we think about soccer parents and we go really to the negative. We go to, at Soccer Parenting, we call like the crazy soccer parent. But the truth is that the vast majority of parents are level-headed and they're sometimes stressed about their child. And all they need is a little bit of guidance, some connection, some education. Parent engagement is what they need. And then they won't venture into the level of being that crazy soccer parent. And it's important that we realize that, because what's happened in the youth soccer ecosystem globally is that these crazy parents have taken so much energy and so much focus that two things. One is that coaches, we've too often decided that we don't want to engage with parents because we've had negative situations in the past, which are valid. And then also parents have said, I don't want to ask too many questions. I don't want to seem too involved because I don't want to be that crazy parent and for the coach to think that I'm that way. The fact is that parents are receiving a lot of mixed messages regarding parent engagement. Parents are being told to be engaged, or they're being told to care less or get more involved. Don't be the crazy parent. Don't watch practices. Collaborate with a coach. We're hearing so many mixed messages that it's really important from a parent engagement standpoint that we give parents agency, that we give them a place and we say, this is your role. And that's a big part about, again, what we'll be talking about today. Really, what we're talking about when we're talking about parent engagement, this topic today is culture. And culture is an integrated pattern of knowledge, beliefs, values, and behaviors. And when I'm asking you in this first takeaway to rethink what you believe to be true about youth soccer parents, to be willing to change your mind or have new beliefs, we're talking about finding a place and a way that parents can really be engaged and be a part of the culture. So these knowledge, beliefs, values, behaviors is something that, I think, again, you should spend some time and reflect about, gaining knowledge about what you're doing today, about how to engage parents more, what your beliefs are about the role of parents, how you value parents and their role in the youth soccer teams that you're coaching, and what your behaviors are going to specifically be around youth soccer parents. So again, just to recap my takeaway, think deeply about what you tend to believe to be true about parents and be willing to open your heart and to change your beliefs. So takeaway number 2 is to allow yourself to rethink the parent-coach relationship so that you start to work with parents. Now, I get it. Many of you might already right now be engaging parents and be open to this. So you might not have to rethink so much what the coach-parent relationship is. But that being said, we have so many mixed messages as coaches and as parents about what this role is. I think it's important that we take some time and we come up with a plan. So talking about parent engagement and the why behind it, there is so much great research in our schools about parent engagement and research about what effective parent engagement programs at schools, what they result in. And these are some of the results. Schools that have effective parent engagement programs have children that perform better, that have higher test scores, that complete their homework. Schools that have effective parent engagement programs, their students have stronger self-belief, they stay in school, the parents are empathetic, and the teachers are satisfied. So if we take this research that is so prevalent about schools' parent engagement programming, and we think about what that means for our teams and for the athletes that we're working with in our teams, all of a sudden, we're going to be seeing clubs that have athletes that play better, that the players are more inspired, they train on their own, they have stronger self-belief, they keep playing, something we obviously is so essential to our youth soccer environment, that the parents are empathetic and that the coaches are satisfied. So that is the result of parent engagement. If I came to you and said, hey, coach, I have a solution for you that will help your players play better, be more inspired, train on their own, have higher self-belief. The parents will be empathetic and you'll be more satisfied. Are you interested? Absolutely, you would say yes. The answer there is parent engagement. So what is parent engagement? Let's dive in and really define it very specifically. So I'd like to start here, and I'd like to ask coaches, why do you coach? When I ask coaches that, if you're thinking about that, you're thinking of things like, because I love to see children learning, because I'd love to impart these lessons on kids, because I love the game and I want children to love the game as well. All of those types of things. When I ask coaches, how do you define a successful season? What I hear from coaches are things like if the athletes keep coming back and they play again the next year, or if the players have a lot of fun, if there's lots of joy and inspiration there around the game. Or I define a successful season sometimes if, they do well, they learn, they gain skill. Possibly that some coaches are answering in more results driven, but those are the types of answers when I ask coaches, how do you define a successful season? That I'm hearing. When I ask parents, why do you have your child play sports? Parents often say things like the life lessons. I want my children to learn lessons in teamwork, empathy, grit, resilience. I want my children to be healthier and to be active. Those are all things that parents are saying on their why they have their child play sports. So how do you define a successful season? When I ask parents that, then I'm hearing things like my child has fun, my child learns, they want to play again, they have so much, they make friends on the team, they learn valuable lessons, they want to keep going to practice. All of those types of things are related to parents on how they define a successful season. So my question is it possible for us as coaches and as parents to establish a common why and how? And can we think about what would be in common between coaches and parents on why we coach, why we have our children play, or how we define successful seasons? So this is a great graphic to illustrate this. So the way we find this common why is on inspired players. It's exactly what we're talking about when it comes to finding the common why. The common why is when players are inspired. So effective parent engagement is coaches, clubs, and parents working together to ensure that players are inspired. So I often get asked, how do you define parent engagement? This is what I always say. Parent engagement is coaches, clubs, and parents working together to ensure that players are inspired. And I love this concept of inspired players because it really speaks to all levels of players, everywhere from the grassroots players all up into a high performance players. Even our Olympic level, national team level players say they want to feel a sense of joy and inspiration and fun in order for them to keep playing. So this concept of inspired players really meets the needs of all players. So again, to recap, my takeaway number 2 is allow yourself to rethink the parent-coach relationship so that you start to work with parents. And on to takeaway number 3 for you is to map out and explain your communication plan so to get really clear and really specific. So what does parent engagement mean to you? Well, we've already talked a little bit about inspired players, but when I ask coaches this question, I do get a lot of different answers about the best ways to engage. So let's break it down and get a little specific. So from a coach club perspective, parent engagement is club-wide communication. So that might be newsletters that are going out from the club, or emails or different social messages that might be coming out from the club. It's also coach communication. So the coaches, you may be sending out emails to your parents or communicating on some team communication app that you may have. So that coach communication from a club or coach perspective is foundational to parent engagement. There's also team meetings. So these might be periodic meetings. You have maybe a meeting to kick off the season that you have with your parents, just to kind of get things going in the right direction, maybe a postseason. We'll talk about some key times for team meetings. There also, and this is so key to parent engagement and doesn't get talked about enough, are brief interactions. The interaction that you may have with a parent when you're hopping out of the car and you're walking to the field before a match, and it's just the hello that might happen in that environment, or maybe just a quick conversation that you have as you're walking off the field or before practice. So those brief interactions are really, really important. Individual player meetings, depending on the level and your experience in the game, maybe you are having individual player meetings where you're giving feedback about different topics. And then, so key to the engagement that we have are these transformational conversations. So this is the conversation that you may have with that stressed parent that just needs a little bit of guidance. So it's that transformational conversation that you're having with a parent that's kind of getting them back in line, that's giving them the perspective that they need, that's assuring them that everything is on the right track. From a parent perspective, it's also really important that when we think about engagement, that we're thinking about it from both levels. It's not just one-sided. Parent engagement is certainly two-sided. So in the work that I do with parents, this is what I'm talking to them about when it comes to effective parent engagement from their perspective. It's reading the emails, getting your child there on time, and attending the meetings. It's supporting the goal-setting process for your child. It's not facilitating it necessarily, but supporting it. It's attentive silence mode. We'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. But, from a parent perspective, it's attending the matches in either attentive silence mode or supportive mode. It's educating themselves about key areas. At soccer parenting, we have 6 pillars of soccer parenting: the body, the mind, the game, the next level, the coach-club relationship, and parenting. So education about these 6 areas is essential, that parents are trying to receive education to support their child to ensure that they're continuing to feel inspired. Important here is also moments of ignition between a parent and a player. And these can often be coach facilitated or encouraged. An example of a moment of ignition might be having the match on the television on the weekend, so that there's just something in the background that the child might decide to watch. Or buying a kit, or following a team and choosing a team that you will support and finding that passion, with helping your child find that passion. So these key moments of ignition. One of my favorite stories about this is one of my friends, Eric Imler, who's a U.S. Olympian. When he was very young, I think he said he was 9 years old, his dad went so far out of his way to have him meet Johan Cruyff when Cruyff was playing in the United States. And Eric says that this moment, meeting Johan, changed his perspective forever. And it's the moment that he felt this deeper connection to the game as a 9-year-old. So these moments of ignition that coaches can encourage parents to find with their child really are a big part when it comes to parent engagement. We also need to encourage the parents to go outside and play with their child, to have fun interactions around just the game, or playing, or passing games, or different games that you can encourage your parents to play with their child. And then the other key thing that parents need to do is make a decision about the playing environment of their child. So, these are all things that we need to think about when we think about parent engagement from both the coach perspective and the parent perspective. So just to give you an idea as a coach of what my communication plan is, and I think it's important that we're very specific about this, is that this is very generally how I interact with my parents on the teams that I coach. So after we have tryouts, after a tryout, I'll send an email requesting insights. Parent, you know your child more than I do. My greatest introduction to them is going to be information and insights from you. So I usually ask parents 4 or 5 questions in this email about their child, about their learning style, not about what position do they like to play, or things like that about their playing. I want to know about their child, maybe some of their personality traits, so that I can make sure that my impact is as quick as possible in getting to know them. I'll then have an after tryout meeting. In the States, we'll have that after tryout meeting usually a month or so before the season actually starts, because then everyone will go on holiday after the tryout. So then we'll do a follow-up meeting just before the season starts. And I'll be really clear about setting my expectations for communication. So every coach, each of you will communicate differently with your teams. You'll have different things that work best for you. Some of you will like to send long emails after every game. Some of you will not. So what's most important is that we set expectations so that parents don't feel like, well, last season's coach sent this long email. I haven't gotten that email, so this coach is not engaging me appropriately. It's really important they say, this is what you can expect from me, and then you follow through with that. We'll then, like I mentioned, do a preseason meeting. I do a pregame huddle with my team, so I'll have a really quick 30 to 60 second team meeting with my parents on the sideline. Just in the final phase of warm up, I'll walk over there to tell them about what they can expect in the match, to remind them about sideline communication and give a couple reminders. So I do a pregame huddle, and then I'll send a random email here or there. I am not one of the coaches that will send lots of emails, so I want to make sure that parents know that. And then there'll be certainly some end of season, but I'm very clear, and I set out some guidelines and expectations so that everyone can be clear about what to expect from me. Dealing with this, there's 3 necessary C's for you to be effective in your parent engagement. So for you to be clear and to follow through, the first thing that we need to be as coaches is that we need to have some confidence. So we need to have confidence in speaking to the parents. And for some of us, that's going to be very easy. For others of us, it will be very nerve-wracking. But you need to have confidence in the self-efficacy, this awareness or self-confidence in your ability to appropriately interact with the athletes that you're working with. And a lot of times that's just moments of reflection that you can have about what we're really trying to do. So if you don't have a strong background in playing or coaching, you can have a high impact in just having positive interactions with the players. And so just having real clarity and confidence in what it is you're bringing to the table as a coach, and making sure that that confidence follows through to the parents that are on your teams. The second C is collaboration. So absolutely, parent engagement needs to be super collaborative. So we want to invite parents to connect with us in as many ways as we set boundaries around. And I'll get into that in a moment. But one of the necessary C's of parent engagement is this concept of collaboration. And then next, finally, the third necessary C is consistency. So again, I can't explain enough. Whatever you say that you will do to the coaches, we just need to really make sure that we follow through and are consistent in our communication and what we say that we will do. So to recap, takeaway number 3, it's to map out and explain your communication plan. Map it out for you so you have clarity around it, and then explain it with clarity to the parents. So takeaway number 4 is to protect the player's level of inspiration and experience, making sure that their experience is full of inspiration by establishing sideline norms and accepted behaviors. So this is such a key area and way that we need to engage with parents and sort of control the learning environment for our athletes and for our teams. So there's 3 types of sideline behavior that we talk about at Soccer Parenting. There's supportive, distracting, and hostile. And in order for you to control and to foster a positive playing environment for your teams, and when you're engaging with parents, it's really going to be important that you're engaging with them regarding sideline behavior. So parents need to understand the difference between supportive and distracting communication. And obviously, there can be no hostile communication. So we find it's really helpful for coaches to sort of bucket the communication, and for parents to be able to gain clarity around what type of behavior they're having or they're experiencing or witnessing. So that's supportive, that's distracting, that's hostile. And distracting communication is communicating to the child when they're in middle of trying to perform a task. It's telling them what to do, throw it here, pass it here, shoot. All of those things are distracting, and they're actually not helping with long-term cognitive growth or skill acquisition. And so when parents can learn the difference between supportive and distracting, eliminate the distracting, then we'll have a much more positive sideline. So as a coach, when you're engaging and interacting with these parents, obviously protecting the sidelines and making sure that the sidelines are the most conducive to player development is essential. And I think these are three good ways for coaches to gain a little bit of clarity and how to have those conversations with parents. So the other thing that's key, and when we're having sideline norms and we're creating norms around the coach-parent relationship, because the coach-parent relationship is one that's so confusing and so undefined, what we know to be true is that when boundaries are established, then actually the relationship will improve. So when we have clarity around what the boundaries are, what's okay and appropriate in the coach-parent relationship and what's not, then the parent engagement, the level of player inspiration, the level of joy is really heightened. So ways that the door is open and really having engaging conversations with parents about this is okay. If your child is lacking in inspiration repeatedly, if they get into the car for a couple weeks after training and they're not happy, I want to hear about it. Please, the door is absolutely open to you to come talk to me anytime where you're handling a situation or you're dealing with a situation where your child is not feeling inspired. If you're having a lot of stress, if you're feeling unnecessarily stressed or angst, then absolutely the door is open to come and talk to me. Let's try to figure this out, understand what you're feeling, and we can go through, and try to come up with some solutions. And then the third way that the door needs to always be open for parents is if they need any education or guidance. So if they have a question about a law of the game, or if they have a question about, if they want to help their child learn how to throw the ball in appropriately, and they're not sure how to do it themselves, then for them to come to you to ask about that, absolutely the door is open. But the door is also closed sometimes. And this actually helps parents engage more with coaches when they know, oh, that's okay, that's not okay. So I know this is okay, so I'm going to talk to the coach. I'm not going to be a crazy parent or be perceived to be that way. So when we gain clarity about what's okay and what's not okay. So when we're engaging with parents, we need to let them know that the door is closed if they have a question about a tactical decision. If they don't agree with the substitution you made or the system that you played, but the door is not open, the door is closed. The door is not open for them to come and complain to you about that. You're the coach. You're the one that makes those decisions. If the parent has an issue with game decisions, who started, who didn't start, how many people you said to put in a wall, or that, like I said, positions that players are playing, the door is closed for those types of conversations. Also, the door is closed for parents to come and talk to you as a coach about other players. You can't complain like, why did this player start? They missed practice on Tuesday. Those conversations are not okay. The only time it would be okay for a parent to come and talk to a coach about another player would be a player wellness issue relating to bullying or something like that might be happening on the team that the coach might not be aware of. So again, having these boundaries, the door is open, the door is closed in these situations, communicating these boundaries to parents in that first parent meeting that you have is a really essential component of establishing norms within the team, establishing good sideline behavior that's really supporting player inspiration. So again, to recap, takeaway number 4 is to protect the player's level of inspiration and their experience by establishing sideline norms and also establishing accepted behaviors within the team. Okay, let's move on to takeaway number 5. So this is one of my favorite topics to talk about, and it's establishing trust. So trust is foundational to the work that we're doing at Soccer Parenting. It's foundational to effective relationships between coaches and parents. What we're often talking about when we're talking about relationships in the coach-parent dynamic that don't work well, there's a lack of trust. So takeaway number 5, establish trust. So there's a lot of research around trust as well. And we know that trust-filled organizations, take this down into your team. So trust-filled teams or organizations, there's increased value I would say higher level of inspiration, amazing, because that's really the value of what we're trying to get out of with youth soccer. Accelerated growth, so higher player development, enhanced innovation. Let's say you want to try something new, or the club wants to pool play the U10 players. If there's a high level of trust within the organization, then the sense of innovation will be really encouraged and parents will welcome that. So improved collaboration happens with trust, better execution, again, more player inspiration, better life lessons, better experiences for players, families, and coaches, and heightened loyalty. So this is what happens when we have trust-filled organizations, and this is how you can work to establish trust. So ways that coaches can establish trust within your team are to keep your commitments. Another example of, if you say you're going to email every weekend, be ready to email every weekend. Listen first. So always go into a situation, if a parent does approach you, and trying to listen and understand, keeping an open mind and an open heart, like we talked about before. Setting clear boundaries. So this opening the door and closing the door is actually foundational to trust, is that we have clarity on how our relationship will work, and it actually builds trust. As coaches, we need to right our wrongs. I had a girl on my team a couple of years ago that, I hate to say this because it doesn't sound right, but she just bothered me a lot. Like, our personalities didn't really go well. And I loved her, of course. And I really had so much fun coaching her. But we had some personality conflicts. And one time at the end of training, we have all the players come together. I always, do a little cheer at the end of training, put our hands and say Richmond Strikers, which is the club that I'm coaching at. And this girl started walking away. And this is our tradition with our team. We always do this cheer. And she starts walking towards her bag. And so I said, hey, called her name, come on back. And she looked over her shoulder and just gave me that. I kept walking. And I'm like, come on. I thought maybe she didn't hear me. She just keeps walking. And then I lose it. And I screamed so loud. I have probably only screamed at my children like that once or twice, and I've always regretted it. I felt horrible. And then I felt especially horrible when I looked down and all the little girls were in our huddle just about to do this cheer, and I screamed at them. And so there are these wide, scared eyes looking at me, and it was a total coaching fail. Complete fail right there. And so we did our cheer, and I walked with this girl, and I walked to her parents, and I apologized. I just yelled at her really loudly, and I'm really sorry. I just lost it. We were having an issue at the end of training where she didn't come back, but I apologize. And I really appreciate the trust that you have in me, and I won't scream at her again. And I apologized to the girl right in front of her parents. And then I had to send an email to the whole parent saying, at the end of training, I got really upset with the player. I'm sorry, and had to explain that. And that's me righting my wrongs. Like, we're not perfect as coaches. And sometimes we make mistakes. Maybe you get a yellow card in a game. And so you need to right your wrongs. And that's really foundational to establishing trust. So I hope that story about me making a big fail will help you if you ever run into a similar situation, to make sure that we continue to establish trust. Because if I hadn't sent that email, if I hadn't talked to the coach, then trust would really have been diminished on the team. Absolutely. So we need to demonstrate respect. I have a key takeaway for you, a key, easy, simple thing you can do to demonstrate respect. And we need to extend trust ourselves. So as parents are coming to us, we need to make sure that we are extending trust to them if we expect them to have trust in us. So takeaway bonus, this was my easy thing you can do, is know all the names and the soccer background of the parents that are on your team. So there's so much more effective interaction that happens when you're getting out of the car before training and you see the parent and you're walking to the field, and we talked about those brief interactions. And if you can say, hey, Maggie, good morning, so nice to see you, and you know the first name of the parent, that will make such a difference when it comes to establishing trust, when it comes to really effective parent engagement. That will mean a lot to the parent. So for me, I literally have flashcards because names do not come easy to me. So I have the player's name on the front, flip it over, the mom, the dad's name on the back. If there's siblings that are often there, I'll make little notes to that. And I literally have to study in order to learn the parents' names on my team, but it really makes a very big difference. And so another takeaway bonus is to talk about non-soccer related things with the parents that are on your team. So really just kind of broadening the perspective of the conversations we have, what job they have, where they might be taking a holiday, those types of things, so that we can have a better understanding and find some different connection points for the parents outside of just the game. So takeaway number 5 to recap was to establish trust. And let's move on to our final takeaway. Takeaway number 6 is to remind yourself every single day that your number one priority is inspiring every single player on your team. As a grassroots coach, as coaches in the youth game, player inspiration and joy, finding a love of the game and connection and making memories that will last a lifetime are foundational to the work that we're doing. And as coaches, it's so easy to get caught up in the practice that we're designing and that we're trying to execute, and what didn't happen or what did happen, or the game or the match or what the official did. It's so easy to get caught up in all of these things. And what we really need to center ourselves on is what this is really all about, and that our number one priority is to inspire every single player on our team. So what do parents need? As we wrap up here, I always love asking this question. Really, what do parents need for effective parent engagement, or to feel like the experience their child is having is one that they are excited about as well? Hopefully, a few of you have thought it as I've had this slide up. Parents need to know that you care more about their child as a person, and that you have appropriate expectations for them as a player. So based on their mentality, based on their physical potential, that you have appropriate expectations for the player. But more than anything, parents need to know that you care more about their child as a person. And so in all of the engaging opportunities or interactions that you have with parents throughout the course of the season, that layered in foundational to that really needs to be this idea that you care about the child. And to do that, you're getting to know the child. You're making sure that you're letting the parent know that, like, something that I do a lot is I'll send quick little messages to parents after training about their child. Oh, you should have seen Isabel today. She made a great pass and was so excited. She literally jumped in the air afterwards because it was such a great pass and she saw this space to play the ball into. It's just something simple, but sending those quick little messages to parents really show that I care about their child and how they're learning and the experience that they're having, the joy that they're having. It's not just all about the results. So important for us to think about that. So just to recap here, parent engagement is coaches, clubs, and parents working together to ensure that players are inspired. And I'm positive that if you layer in these parent engagement principles into the coaching environment that you have into your team, that will have heightened player inspiration, that children will keep playing, they'll be more motivated to train on their own, parents will be satisfied, and you will be as well. So again, recapping takeaway number 6, remind yourself every single day that your number one priority is inspiring every single player on your team. The role that we have as a coach is so essential to players. I look back on my experience as a grassroots player, and I can remember interactions that I had with my coaches growing up. And those interactions were foundational to my connection as a player to the game. So the role that we have as coaches is so important. The influence that we have on children's lives, on parents' lives, on families' lives, on communities is really noteworthy, and is something that we really need to remind ourselves about all the time, to not get sidetracked with too many of the details, but just remember that at the end of the day, this is all about player inspiration and having an impact on the life of children.
Yeah, there's a lot to take in there, but it's such an important aspect of coaching in Australia, and perhaps an under-supported area as well. And those sessions can provide a great blueprint for perhaps taking parental emotions out of the experience and putting the player first. Remember to like the Inspire FC social media accounts, because we'll be releasing clips and snippets throughout the year, and just maybe you can show that to your team and to the odd over enthusiastic parent on the sideline as well, to help diffuse matters. Emma Hayes spoke about that too. It is such an important part of coaching at grassroots level.
I have heard that sideline behaviour is improving, but those messages are gold dust, aren't they, about putting the player first? All right, the rain is coming in here. Garby's getting a little bit worried about his hair, so let's hand over to Inspire FC's Ed Ferguson to talk a little bit more about how Inspire FC is going to support you through that coaching journey this season.
Welcome coaches to the Inspire FC Grassroots Coaching Conference for 2022. We started Inspire to support the thousands of grassroots coaches throughout Australia, with the aim to empower you, inspire your coaches, and put the football experience first. As a coach, you are the biggest influencer on a player's experience within football. You play an extremely important role, and we recognise that many of you are new to the game or new to volunteering. Inspire FC has been built by grassroots coaches in Australia with the help of leading coach developers to provide simple, accessible, and highly engaging resources to support you on your season-long and hopefully lifelong journey within football coaching. Inspire spans further than just the conference today. Behind the scenes, we have hundreds of videos, downloadable content, and education resources to help you plan out the season. We have seasonal plans that cater for our minis, our juniors, and our youth age groups, each with 10 video sessions and downloadable PDFs. As a subscriber to the platform, you'll also receive access to other content, which includes coaching tips, which get released weekly, introductory videos, and access to ongoing coach workshops held throughout the season. Our primary aim at Inspire FC is to inspire you and your players to fall in love with football. We believe that this starts with the coach, as better coaches create better football experiences, and this results in better players. The only player that is not developing is the one not playing. And as coaches, our KPI is to ensure that players come back year on year with a smile on their face, and just like me when I was a youngster, laying out my kit on a Friday night in anticipation for match day on Saturday. We hope you enjoyed today's conference. We have an array of fantastic minds from Australia and the world, and all the best with your coaching journey for the season. Thank you.
All right, that's the wrap, and despite the rain falling late, what a day it's been.
We've absolutely loved it. We hope you've enjoyed it as well. You've taken lots of little nuggets away that'll be good for the season ahead, because that season is not far away.
Yeah, and hopefully you feel better prepared now for your first training session and your first match to make sure it's a successful one. Remember, the beauty of this platform is you can log in at any time and go through the clips. That is the beauty of it, and makes life so much more advantageous for you.
Well, the future of football is absolutely clear. The kids are ready for a massive season. We hope you enjoy every moment of it as well. We'll see you again soon. Kids, are you keen?
Yeah!